Hi, Sharon again from Down Home Wicks, and we're here to talk about the next step. Now that you know how much candle wax and fragrance mixture that you're going to put into your candle, we're going to talk about the wick that you use. Now, we're going to make the assumption that you're going to do some testing with all of this, and this is probably an intermediate stage of candle making. You should be testing, I would say to start out with, this would be an intermediate container. If you're beginning candle maker, you should be starting out in a jar that is readily available so that you could do your testing. Jars that are made for heat, like canning jars, candle jars, something that's been pre-tested. And the reason I say that is this, I've already made candles. I've already used this jar. I kind of know what to expect out of this jar. I will, when I buy these jars, I will buy probably what's on the shelf. I don't know, 6 or a dozen of them. And I will burn one of them just to be sure, just to make sure that I've got the right wick size. You should be testing your wicks for every container style that you have. Now, as a rule, wick size matters, but what you're measuring is the diameter of your jar. It doesn't matter how tall it is. For an example, the wick size for this jar is the same as the wick size for this jar. And it's because the diameter of this jar is the same as the diameter of this jar. And I'm going by the top of this. I'm kind of skipping over the fact that it might be a little wider on the side, but I'm also going by the fact that the opening of this jar is about the same, and that's probably what's going to get the hottest. One of that test is, this is a drinking jar from Walmart. I just screwed that on there. I've already tested this jar. That doesn't mean that I can't skip the testing on this. That just means that I have a starting point. And I know that when I use these jars, because I've already done a lot of testing, that I use the HTP 105. This is my biggest seller. I make these by the hundreds, and I still test. I don't stop testing. I test all the time. But I make these by the hundreds. I buy wicks in packs of 500. These are the 105s. Now, the difference in the wicks are the size of the wicks in the diameter. This wick is called, this is a pre-tabbed wick. It already comes on a tab. This is slightly smaller, and because we're only going to go 14 ounces, it's only going to come up to here. So we'll have to trim this just a little bit, and then it'll be fine. Most wicks, you can get wicks 6 inches, 8 inches, 10 inches. Sometimes you can get them a little bit longer than that, and then they come in spools. This is an HTP 126. This, I don't know that you can see it on camera. These are both square wicks. Well, these actually look a little more flatter. This is a bigger wick than this, ever so slightly. They're very hard to tell the difference once you've taken them out of the bag. This burns better in this jar than this does. This one has a tendency to get just a little hot. It will still work in a pinch. So say I ran short by 10 wicks, I might use 10 of these, and that's about it. But as a rule, I use these. The difference is, even though these will still work, my candle will burn just a little bit longer because it doesn't burn quite as hot. So I want to use this wick in here. I don't want this, even though it would seem like I would use this wick in here because it's just a little bit bigger, because this is a little more round. I don't want it to burn as hot. Alternatively, there's an HTP 83 that may also work. I like to use these in containers that look a little more possibly fragile. This is one step smaller than this. See, side by side, you can't really tell. Now, if you put this one next to this one, you could probably tell. Visually, I can tell. You might not be able to see on camera. So there's dozens of wick sizes, types, styles. I just happen to favor the HTP wicks. When you're starting out your candle business, I prefer to stick with what I know and what I know works. And that's why I pick certain containers and I stick with it. For the holiday season, I might veer off into some specialty containers, and that's about it. It also helps to streamline my business. That way you're not constantly testing a variety. You know, if you have 16 different types of containers, that's a lot to manage. You also get better pricing if you can buy in bulk. The bigger the quantities you buy, the better the pricing it is. So we're going to stick with standardized wick sizes. This HTP 125 is a little bit too big. It's kind of like Goldilocks. It's a little bit too big, and this is a little bit too small. But the HTP 105 is just about right, and I know that because it's worked with this jar historically for me. So that's my starting point. I'm going to make a candle with the 105, put it in here, and test burn it. It's only going to go up to about right here anyway. And I don't want this to get too hot, primarily because this glass is not as heavy duty as this glass, and I don't want to burn my paint off. And then we'll see how it works. So for more tips, make sure you subscribe and come back and watch the next video, and we're going to actually make a candle. Bye-bye.